Today I'm going to be telling the story of my experience taking the API First initiative at Verizon from concept to commercialization. This was the most ambitious and challenging undertaking of my 8-year career at the company, primarily because of the scope of the operational and technical challenges. In the end, I was successful through strategic and relentless approaches to solving both. There are 3 chapters to today's story. Chapter 1, the problem Verizon, my group, my team, and I faced. Chapter 2, the solution that I, as the team's senior most product lead, championed. And Chapter 3, the resulting outcomes. Since the platform at the center of my presentation is inaccessible to you all, I have appendix diagrams and other material that provides more context. I'll start with the problem. Going back to early Q4 2022, I was a senior PM who'd recently revitalized the Verizon Cloud app to the tune of 250 million in under 3 years by implementing a new hybrid architecture, delivering machine learning powered features, and offering unlimited storage plans to over 10 million subscribers. I was tapped by my former VP to build an API portal for the Common Router software platform, also known as CRISP, to be done in secret. CRISP containerized home routers to unlock their capabilities for application developers. Unbeknownst to me, this was Act 1 of my journey. Act 2 was the intra-company platform I would next lead, API First. Act 3 was externalizing that platform. The first act was a case in point of a much larger problem the VP presented to our SVP. There was a noticeable delta between Verizon's API maturity and that of competitors. Most Verizon product organizations were API-led or API-aware, in the middle or near the bottom of the API maturity scale. And it showed. API journeys were often circuitous, inventory tended to be opaque, documentation an afterthought. If you needed access or wanted metrics, you had to email somebody. More often than not, governance was a moving target, and tech stacks were siloed, locked in, and rigid. So developers daily faced the scenario illustrated on the right. The SVP who greenlit API First championed APIs as accelerants to product development, essential for Verizon to thrive in diverse markets. He saw them as digital currency with untapped value the company needed to harness to succeed. My background, defined by storytelling, problem solving, and blending technical acumen with business savvy, programmed me to approach Verizon's transformation effort like I would trying to solve a large jigsaw puzzle. Envision the end state, analyze the pieces, and group them into connected components to form a cohesive whole. In essence, to take an API-first approach that defaults to interoperability, modularity, scalability, and of course, automation. Speaking of acceleration, our VP gave us 7 months to complete the end-to-end integration of the gateway with a state-of-the-art developer portal underpinned by API governance, training, and support. Whether my challenges were operational, technical, or even cultural, approaching them with REST API principles made sense. As my cross-functional team 5x'd, its ROI increased as I maximized its interoperability and modularity. I empowered product managers to own roadmap deliverables and evangelize them. I led workshops to streamline agile workflows, ceremonies, and tools, and I ensured transparency around prioritization. This supercharged team productivity and increased developer efficiency. From an execution standpoint, to achieve our SVP's visionary end state and to meet our VP's velocity-driven timeline, our technical decision-making needed to embody versatility. I facilitated most of the planning meetings that got us there, building out end-to-end user personas and journeys, evaluating tech stack considerations like doc schemas, CMS, metrics, aligning with delivery leads on the work order of scoped and sized items, and formalizing governance for API design, documentation, and security. I made sure to keep end goals front and center, automating workflows like CI/CD, introducing temporal, introducing alerts, shifting ops and processes left for example, CI/CD, monitoring, testing. This was especially important to me because I had to present periodic updates and conduct hands-on demos to leadership. I also had to build consensus among product, IT, legal, security, and marketing, and manage partnerships with software and staffing vendors. Now, in terms of the solutions implemented to achieve those end goals, for API First to deliver the most value, its platform needed to be holistic and harmonized to fit existing and new use cases. There are half a dozen components in front of you. In the interest of time, I'm going to focus on three: the surfaces that proved to be slick and useful, the backend that ensured interoperability and automation, and the metrics that would unlock insights on developer behavior, API utilization and all that comes with it, and system performance. That's in no way to diminish the centrality of the gateway and IAM or the ubiquity of alerts and workflows. Pivoting quickly to an appendix slide provides a component diagram view. At the center of the story is the API. A producer portal simplifies API management for API owners. The gateway enforces API contracts and manages global policies. It does so in concert with an IAM service, which in turn unlocks notifications, workflows, and metric services for producers and consumers. And speaking of consumers, APIs they discover on the API Hub adhere to a data model and taxonomy controlled by a capability map portal. The next slide over in the appendix illustrates all of this in a high-level architecture. I've mentioned 3 portals. There were 4, including an external API hub. Before I cover that, I'd like to cover the internal portal that preceded it. This portal was integral to stimulating API adoption internally. It would lay the groundwork for how Verizon galvanized partner interest in APIs. Earlier, I mentioned that this portal needed to come together in 7 months. It did, and most of the features listed here landed in the first 2 milestones. To make that happen, my leadership had to run the gamut from strategic to hands-on, depending on the situation. A hands-on example, I rewrote off-the-mark homepage copy in Figma with our UX lead hours before my first SVP update meeting. To the right of that screenshot is the API consumer journey mapped out in Q1 2023. Its 3 pillars are discovery, evaluation, and usage. The consumer journey helped align our delivery timeline and features with demand. The next slide gives a sequential view of what I mean. In August 2023, the internal hub launched with 5 APIs on the homepage and a catalog with runtime database integration. 5 documentation sections fetched at runtime from CI/CD pipes, plus partially automated ticketing and developer guides and a blog. This was the foundation on which the next 2 milestones were to build, but there was no resting on laurels. Interest in going external quickly swelled. A reorg occurred, ushering in a new VP, and 3 milestones were reduced to 2. Despite that, come Q1 2024, the internal portal had a catalog integrated with homegrown APIs to deliver maturity levels per API, up to 10 documentation pages with HTML transformed from API specification files, including interactive code samples and error handling information. Automated self-service account creation and client credential grant flows. By this time, I had promoted 2 senior PMs on my team to squad lead roles, one heading up the backend service, the other the IAM and ordering and billing services. An engineering lead gradually took the reins of software development, QA, and DevOps. This gave me time to focus on shepherding the external portal through go-to-market and forging a relationship with the business product team that had just reorged under new leaders. With the business team on board, I ensured the external portal had feature parity with the internal portal, plus use case appropriate external auth and bespoke solution bundles to help productize APIs. All in all, 2024 ended on a high note for the team and I. We celebrated the realization of a modern API management system as encompassed and efficient as it is scalable and secure, one that transforms how products are conceived, built, and sold, and renders business complexities transparent to customers. In terms of results delivered, API delivery speed from 2023 to 2024 grew by 4x. Essentially, we shrunk it from months to weeks. There was a 133% increase in APIs deployed to the hub, going from 5 to 30, and then from 30 to over 70. There was a 25% increase in API access requests internally in the second half of last year. Momentum was also built on the external front.